Hello. We're gonna do some. I'm waiting for a few people to join that I think are about to raid. We will find out. Can't believe I'm watching Jesse's stream on screen. There it is. That's next level stuff, by the way. Oh, there. Everybody's here. Let's see when the alert gets off.
Irisi raided my stream with 12 viewers.
Nice. Nice. Hello, friends. Hello, Jesse and Raiders. Still haven't fixed that stream alert thing yet. It's supposed to say how many, but yeah. Life is life sometimes. So, this stream's going to be a little different. I'm not sure how much coding we're going to do, but we are going to do some, I would say, investigation in preparation for a pretty cool event that's happening next week. And it does have to do with Shiny, so we're still doing Shiny stuff tonight. But I just want to kind of do some brainstorming with all of you. I could go a couple different directions, and it'll be interesting what you all have to say. So let's bring in the chat via my lovely stream deck here. Very good. Hello, Tan, RDR fan, Jesse, everyone else. Thanks for coming. And so you're probably wondering, what event am I actually talking about? Now, Jesse, you probably know about this, because like I said, it has to do with Shiny, but I will be glad to tell you about it. So next week, Wednesday, let me see if my scene shows up here. Hold on. Okay, not that one. There we go. There is a webinar happening. Wait, got feedback. Where's that coming from? Hold on, folks. What did I do here? Are you all still? Why, I'm still here. Knuckle, where's that coming from? Okay, I gotta check some bits here. That's not what I want. Alright, I think. No, there is a. What source is that coming from? What did I just do? OBS shenanigans at the worst time. Let me go back to VS Code and see if it still shows up. Alright, is it still? Oh, it's still there. Okay, what did I hit? What did I... There must be another window here somewhere that I don't know about. So is it just me hearing this echo, or are all of you hearing it too? I love OBS troubleshooting on the fly. A bit of it, yeah. So it's not just me. Okay, now the question is, where is it coming from? So, let's close the browser and see if that's what was doing it. Still there? Yep, it's still there. Yeah, I gotta see if my mixer actually did something here. Oh, I think I know. Let's see. Alright. Hopefully you all can still hear me. Can I get a thumbs up or good emoji or emote if you all can still hear me? Cross my fingers. Yay, okay. You're right, Tan. Okay. So now let's bring what I just had back up, because now I can tell you what the heck I was talking about before I was so panicked there with OBS shenanigans. So next week, Wednesday, we have our studio is hosting a webinar, joint webinar with Brian O'Neill, and they're going to talk about improving the UI and UX of your Shiny apps. And I just so happen to be on this panel that they're going to have with Lou Bajuk, Margaret Margot Brad. I think I know her, but I'm trying to remember from where. David Grangen, I definitely know him, and me and Nick Strayer. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But only until about a day or two ago did I realize, or did I know what the heck we were going to actually be talking about. So I got an email and it gave me some prep notes for it. And I think I am going to be expected to come with a app that I've worked on that I'd like to talk about, or that Brian will ask me about the things. It's a great sight unseen to do a topic about Shiny. Yeah, of course, big surprise, right? So, maybe a limerick. Yeah, who knows? I tried to make some fun analogies when I talk about these things at like the kind of the higher level or the meta level. So I still have to think about that. But my biggest objective tonight is to find an app that I've done that is hopefully already in the open that has hints, little hints of what I do in my day-to-day work. Now, this would have been a slam dunk if I could have shared 3 of the major apps I worked on at the day job the last like 4 or 5 years that have had very sophisticated workflows where I had to pay a good bit of attention to UX. But that unfortunately I will not be able to share those. So my hope is that I can, in the next few days, look at something I've submitted before or open source before, just as me learning about Shiny and everything like that, and try to augment some features that mimic some of the stuff I do at the day job without getting me in a boatload of trouble. So that's what I'm going to look at. I have 2, maybe 3 possibilities that we could work with. And I'm going to try and narrow it down to 1. And then we'll see if we have time left to actually do some enhancements to one of them. But this is where you all on the stream here can definitely help inform my decision. So you all are getting the inside scoop of my webinar prep, I guess. So you must feel extremely lucky, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you the first app I have in mind, and we'll see if you all think it's a cool idea. So the first app I have in mind is something I did. When did I do this? Almost a year ago. Wow, almost a year ago. It is called Shiny Saurus. This actually stemmed from Tiny Tuesday, of all things. So maybe instead of actually looking at this boring GitHub, let's actually look at the app itself. This is where the fun begins. So let's boot it up here. And we are here. And this is Shiny Saurus. This is using... let me see if I can resize the browser a little bit so you all in the chat can still see. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit here so it's easier to see. So Shiny Saurus was my first ever foray into doing something for Tidy Tuesday last year, where they shared the data set called the Datasaurus Dozen. And it will, in fact, we'll explore it. But I wanted to do a nice little welcome page here, kind of showing who develops all the awesome packages that I use in my apps, and I do this at the day job as well. Let's go to the Explore tab, and this is where a lot of my apps start with kind of like a logical workflow of where to go and where to start. Although here I didn't really spell out specifically, but this is where what we can do here is explore the Datasaurus Dozen sets. I have a little expandable close and open box here. I can close that. And then this is where we can actually select the data set from the built-in ones from the Datasaurus package that we're using. So it's got the dino selected right now. We have a star here. And there's not a whole lot we can do here other than use Plotly to zoom in on points and get their X and Y coordinates. It's literally meant for just exploring. So that is a workflow I often do in my actual apps is we're serving up pretty complicated data sets, whether they're from what I'll call simulations or real data, but maybe a complicated variable or set of variables. And we let the statisticians or the non-statisticians, like I've done it both ways. I've made apps for statisticians. I've also made apps that even started just for me to make my life easier, and then suddenly other people want to use it. And also more recently for non-statisticians to try and, you know, make decisions or get insights on to what could lead to a key decision with some data that we have. So this first tab is just exploring stuff, so there's not a whole lot to do there, but I have some summary stats that are updated dynamically, and you know, I dare say styled pretty well. Yeah, you can see them change a little bit. Then we get to the animate section, which you can see is kind of a work in progress, but I will definitely enhance this if we go with this app for my thing on Wednesday. But this is where you can choose, at this point, 2 different data sets and animate the transitions between them. And so let's say we choose the, this web view kind of truncated a little bit. We can drag, say, the dino set into the star, and then we can basically define some tuning parameters for the animation. I'm going to leave them as default here, and we can do what's called, you know, let's get it going here. Now comes the fun part. Most apps, I always do now, especially the complicated ones, will do some processing that's launched somewhere else. Now, see, that was pretty quick, but I'll finish my thought here. They will go to either our HPC cluster, they will go to maybe AWS, or they will go to another proprietary kind of model fitting platform that has an API in front of it. And we will have the user wait a little bit while that stuff is happening outside the app. And then when it's done, the app has to be smart enough to know that, okay, that process finished, and now we get to actually see what we created here. And so now this is going to be an animation here, and we can see, okay, we can use Plotly. Again, Plotly, not just for interactive stuff like at a single time point, we can actually animate this thing. So I'm going to zoom this back out to the default view so we can see it almost the whole thing at once. Let's hit play here. And then now you can see the points are changing shape, like the coordinates, and the means of X and Y are basically staying the same, give or take some rounding error. And then once the animation finishes, we got ourselves the finished animation. So I will admit this app doesn't do a whole lot, but it has a taste of some of the stuff I do in my day-to-day work for kind of a UI, UX kind of setup. So that's candidate number 1. So let's keep that in mind. Shiny Source is candidate number 1. We'll put the link to that in the chat. Right here. So feel free to play with that if you want to look at that while I'm making my decision. The next one we want to look at is one that's admittedly a lot older, but I have a soft spot for it for a few reasons. And that is Shiny Lego. This is going to help you create the blueprints, if you will, of creating a mosaic directly from an image and give you the kind of the blocks you would need and everything like that straight from an image upload. So of course, let's see what I'm talking about here. I have a soft spot for this because this was my first ever submission to the Shiny contest, which was coincidentally the first year it ran. I remember being so excited for it. I was like, at that point, I had not shared a single thing I'd done at work with Shiny other than give a couple talks here and there. But I wanted to do something that was a fun data set or a fun application, but still mimic some of the principles I try to do in my day-to-day work. So put this link in the chat if y'all want to follow along there. And so the way this app works is we have two main interfaces, a lot like Shiny Source. The first step is you have to upload your image, and of course nothing else is going to happen until you get that image up there. So let's see if I have any fun pictures that aren't so crazy. Well, we can do the R logo. Let's be fun with that. And then you see it shows up here, and then there is our Lego mosaic. This is actually done with ggplot 2, and this was using the very early generation of what became the Brick R package by Ryan Timp, who actually is now a data scientist at Lego. I think he made the blueprints of this package before he actually got hired over there, if I recall correctly. So once you upload the image, you get some cool little metrics here, albeit I want to style them up a little bit. It's saying, I can zoom in on this one a little bit. Perhaps that. We need 43 bricks. Total bricks, we have 6 unique brick sizes, 10 unique colors, and about $62 it's going to cost based on the data that I had a while back. So you can also change the shape of it, the plate size, the brightness of it, and if you want to make a color the default or black and white. So little customization things, like if I change this, it's going to change it to black and white right now, and you can see, whoops, you can see the number of bricks went down. Now it's down to 23 because obviously we reduced the number of colors. But all that's dynamic, of course. We can flip back to get the color version. And we can change the brightness. I can't remember what this really did, but we'll, yeah, maybe just use some brighter colors. And then now you get to generate the instructions. And this is where you choose the number of steps you want. Now, if you've done Legos before, which I'm sure many of you have, this is very familiar, where you would have a instruction booklet and you would open the pages, and there would be like maybe 10 steps, sometimes 50 steps in these booklets, and then you would obviously put them all together. And by the way, I notice the chat's a little quiet, so that has me a little paranoid that you all somehow can't hear me now, but definitely chime in if you're still with me here. And then after, you can do the tuning to say, okay, we can default to 6 steps. We could also go to, okay, we're still there. Okay, thanks, Jesse. That was eerily similar to when I had, I think I joked about this a week ago. I was doing what amounted to live coding at my internal Shiny forum, and it was absolute crickets. Like, good grief, it was quiet. It was the complete opposite of what I usually have over here, so I didn't want to have that happen again. So once you tweak the number of steps, then you can choose the different steps, and it will update the instructions of what suggested Lego plates you have, and then it's going to show kind of at that step what the bricks are. And you can also get this in table format, so it's a cool little application, a DT, to get the colored cells and then the types of bricks you need. And we can do that all the way to the last step, where we have everything. So you can see, actually, this one, the 13 and 14 is too much, so we might reduce that a bit. 10. Now we got a number of bricks for each step. So you can see this one had 72, and this one only had 31 at the top. And then we're all set. So that is candidate number 2, Shiny Lego, where it expects input from the user that has to be contributed to the app via an upload. And then once you have that, you can do some little bit of tweaking, and then you basically have your finished product. So that's candidate number 2. I will throw in the third one that's more recent, and this will be very familiar to what Jesse just helped me with, I believe, yesterday. We go to my repos here. And forgive me, you have seen this before if you've watched my streams, the pre-Twitch era, if you will. And that would be, of course, the fantastically over-the-top, absolutely crazy Hotshot Racing virtual data dashboard. This is by far the most stylish app I've ever done. You're about to see the huge difference between this and the two I just showed you once the loading GIF finishes. I always love seeing me get first place. That never gets old. It's still BS4 Dash, but it's way different looking to match the game aesthetics. We have the high level stats here. Then we have the, in my mind, my favorite part of the app easily is the animation of Plotly. So this is my second foray into Plotly, was to do this animation. So spoiler, I win. And then the leaderboard, it's reactable. It's got some kind of detailed stats depending on who you click. So there's not a whole lot for the user to really change here other than to get to know the data, so to speak. Let's see what we got. This one I didn't really flesh out as much as I like, but I got the reactable kind of nesting of data and rows, which I think is really fun. And then the margin of victory interactive box plots with E-Charts for R by John Kuhn. And so this one obviously is more about reviewing data. There isn't much user inputs here, so to speak. It's looking at a pre-baked data set. So that is candidate number 3. Put it in the chat just in case. Now, each of these, no matter which one I pick, are still missing a couple things that mimic my day job applications. The biggest one of which is what is called session management. Now, what do I mean by that? In Shiny, there is a feature, we're going to look at this together, that once I knew this existed a few years ago, actually it's been more than a few years ago, we'll find out by the timestamp of these articles potentially. Bookmarking state. Okay, last updated 2019, so it has been almost 3 years. What this does is that it lets a user, after they've done a whole bunch of input settings, they've generated plots, they've done a bunch of stuff in an app, it lets them save what they clicked, the things they set in these inputs, saves it, and then they can restore it back later on. This feature, you know, there's so much in Shiny that has made my life so much easier, but when they built this in, it literally was the last kind of rung on this ladder of showing my teams and my leadership that I can go toe-to-toe with some people that you might pay a boatload of money to on a contracting basis. And if you give me the time, and hopefully give me a couple people to help, but give me the think time, give me the leeway, I can make an app that will meet the needs of some very sophisticated analyses. And this was the feature that, one of the two, I would say, that opened this possibility, because we had situations where the person might use the app and it was kind of like a long duration project where maybe they do something one day, then they get feedback and they want to change the parameter, they want to do something, but they don't want to lose everything they did before. So I figured out how to plug this in with some magic from my part to make it play nicely with the infrastructure that I've been dealt with. And that sounds a little harsh. Dealt with is a bad choice of words. But the ones that I was using for our Shiny Server Pro deployments. Now, this is actually pretty easy for regular stuff, especially if you don't have a lot of inputs. There's a way for you to get a URL after you hit a little button, and then you can bookmark that like you would any other bookmark in your browser. You would open it, and it would magically bring all the inputs back the way they had it. That works for a small set of inputs, but when you have a huge number of inputs, you've got to store that stuff server side somewhere. And the nugget that I think I've cracked about 80% of the way there is now I know how to store this stuff in AWS or some compliant online storage. Whereas before, if you use the Shiny bookmarking state by default, you could only store it in some hidden directory on Shiny Server Pro or RStudio Connect. We now use RStudio Connect at the day job, and we haven't migrated everything from Shiny Server Pro over to that yet, but I couldn't depend on just these bookmark files just be stored in some hidden directory on that server specifically that no regular user could access. I needed something that my apps could access based on the user that is logging into it. So I know that magic. I can't, I might be able to replicate most of that into a toy app that I've shown here, one of the three. But it would be helpful to show that this is a UX thing that I paid very close attention to once that feature came in, that I think is worth talking about next week. So, no matter which app I go to, I'm probably going to have to plug something like this in. So, with that said, I'm now at the crossroads here. I got three choices. We have Shiny Saurus, where the data is in essence baked in, but you get to kind of generate an artifact from it. You have Shiny Lego, which you contribute the data via a picture, and then you can do you can obviously generate the instructions, and that could be fun to share with people, perhaps even a family project. And that has some UX stories there. And lastly, the over-the-top, absolutely nuts Hotshot Racing dashboard. So those are my three choices. So I'm going to noodle on this a little bit verbally, but definitely in the chat, chime in if you think one of these three is heads and shoulders above the others to talk about with somebody who I believe knows a whole lot about UI and UX, probably way more than I do. So, okay, let's catch up. Hello, Monica. Thanks for joining. This was... Sometimes I'm usually good about announcing these things, but I was so captivated by Jessie's stream earlier with her creating awesome artwork that I forgot to send a Twitter post about it. But anyway, what we're doing now is, for catching you up specifically, I'm going to be part of a webinar next week. It is with Brian O'Neill, who I believe runs his own consulting company. And we're going to have a panel discussion with myself and a few others that are brilliant people in the Shiny community. And we're going to talk about our ideas of what, a nice UI UX paradigm looks like, what we learned from our projects, and give a demo of something that kind of or something that we do to implement our strategy for UI UX. And so I'm choosing between 3 apps that I've done previously that have some hints of what I do at the day job without revealing exactly what I did at the day job. The other kind of wrinkle in this is that this will come out in the webinar, so I have no problem saying this here. If you haven't heard my stuff before, I am in the life sciences industry, which means I'm dealing with a lot of clinical type data. And obviously none of these 3 apps I've showed you have anything to do with clinical data. And I probably don't have time to try and cook one up that's very clinically focused. But I think for the webinar, it's cool to have a toy example, but still mimic some things I do at the day job. So I have Jesse, of course. Thank you, Jesse. You're weighing in for Lego, shiny Lego, because it's something people enjoy talking about and has a well-established brand that can be used to discuss UI UX. I love that idea. I think, and Monica's obviously a little biased in parts of this because we were part of this racing season, but I agree with you. This was more of me. I mean, Monica knows this. This app was really intended just for our racers, just to get the data in real time, and then we just had fun with it. And once the shiny contest rolled around, and I just figured, yeah, just throw it in there and see what happens. Well, yeah, nothing to do with performance at all. You know, it's not like we looked at the plot or anything. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Oh, bad Eric. So I think we have our winner. So we've got 3 votes. It looks like Jesse, Monica, and JP Scott are all voting for Lego. I totally agree with you. It resonates, but it also, there's some bits that I can even enhance here that show kind of the ways I want to contribute the balance of summarizing data and making it intuitive and giving not too much flexibility, but giving enough flexibility and being able to have a dynamic, make sure that the user isn't seeing some weird stuff happen when they do this. So let's just upload another image and make sure it all still works. And good grief, I have so many screenshots from VLC of like when I would do my my stream summaries on YouTube. So that's what a lot of these are about. Do I have any fun images? Let's go poking around here. OBS files. Do I have static? I highly doubt this will work, but we'll give it a shot. The hex background. Okay, it's turning away. If it crashes, I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, it's going to crash. This app doesn't do well with... Oh, it worked. Oh, good. Okay. This app, because it's hosted on Shiny Apps IO, you have to pay attention to image size. So that was a gotcha when I first submitted this to the contest, as I had to put in my community post that, hey, if you're going to use this on the hosted version, make sure your images are like 2 megabyte or less or something like that. But it actually worked here. So we got, albeit a very odd looking Lego mosaic of my blanket of the hex stickers that Curtis gave me a couple years ago. So that's slick. Actually worked. Okay. So now that we've aligned on which one I'm going to talk about next week, now my next step is to figure out just what do I want to do to make this better. So I do like the idea of having a welcome type page. It sets the stage. It gives the user kind of high level information on what the app is about, gives them links to more information as needed. So we can see here I got a direct button that links to the GitHub repo, and it's got, you might say, maybe the team behind an app. And honestly, it was me developing it, and I just used Ryan Timp's package or code that started the BrickR package. So I wanted to acknowledge him on it. But this is what I do literally for 2 apps right now at the day job is we have a team of people behind it. I'm like the app developer slash system owner in the IT speak. But then we also have like subject matter experts. I'm kind of like that too. So like for this one app I'm thinking of that I really, really, really wanted to show next week. I'm like the system owner, the lead developer, and one of the SMEs, because I know the methodology pretty well. So that's been a fun. I'll probably be able to talk about that stuff more generally, but there's some interesting dev stories that happen when you have to think about how am I going to actually make this work. But then, as somebody who's actually going to use the app that I'm making, like me personally, I'm using the stuff I made. I got to also put on the hat of a business user, if you will, or a customer. And sometimes they gel well, and sometimes they don't. So it's been a lot of fun to talk about that, or to think about those things, and that will be, I'm sure, talked about with Brian on the webinar next week. So anyway, I'm pretty happy with the welcome page, but there's a cool trick that I've done in my other apps is we like to have a button up here or a link that will give you more verbose documentation of the app. This is hugely important, especially in the parts I work. Because as much as I've tried to make intuitive UIs, clearly explain either in the app itself or like through help buttons and widgets, pop-ups, stuff like that, they still expect more traditional guides or more traditional documents that show how to use the app, why you want to use it, what each page does, and all that. So I don't have it here, but I want to build in here a module that will render a markdown file that gives the documentation for that specific page that they're clicking. So that's the first thing I need to add. So while I'm thinking about this, I'm going to go to Shiny Lego. And look, I actually did think about this before. Create with an app documentation. Yep. So I literally just talked through what I documented in January this year. I remember when I discovered that in January, I was like, I gotta put this in Shiny Cow and everything else. Or not Shiny, well, yeah, Shiny Cow too, but Shiny Lego and Shiny Source and all that stuff. So good, I got that marked. You know what we're gonna do? Okay, so I do have a project called Road to V1, but I just haven't populated it yet. Well, guess what? We got ourselves a deadline now, basically next week, Wednesday, to get a V1 of Shiny Lego. So I think we've got our project going here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the tracker, and we're going to start assigning these to projects. Road to V1. Yep, I got that. This is what I'll call an enhancement. And yes, little old me is going to do it. And we have it now. Okay. So it's, by the way, I need to catch up with the chat here. So Jake P. Scott, oh, never worry about derailing. I'm here to talk for sure. You're asking, is there a package to make those cool little contact boxes? Looks kind of like what the postcard package makes. Oh yeah, great question. So what those are actually built into the BS4- package. And I'll pull it up here. BS4- is one of my favorite dashboard packages that's been created by actually one of the panelists next week, David Grandjean. There's a link to that in the chat here. But it's got a bunch of cool little elements here. Let's see if they have, it's going to be in the reference here. They are, let's see if I can find it here. Actually, you know what? We should just look at the code. That's the easiest way. Like the shiny Lego, and I'll show you the module that has this. Mod. Which module is it? Oh my gosh, I am. Or is it, oh, it's not in the module, it's in the app UI. Okay, so we'll look at this, yeah. So what these are is, yeah, so these are BS4 user cards. So they're called user cards in BS4 Dash, and they have very nice styling out of the box. All I did is I filled in a few parameters like the title, subtitle, etc. And then you could have a list group that has like the different entries there. So here, that list group is like links to different stuff I do. So you don't see the, yeah. So like the links, if I open that up in a new tab, that should go to my podcast page. Yep, it does. So it's a cool little widget that's in BS4 Dash right out of the box. Well, Tan, I see we got some takes here. BS4 Dash is pretty, but I find it restrictive. Putting an action button in the header was more pain than it should have been. I know what you're saying. I do, because it is a bit opinionated on certain constructs. I wonder if David's going to make that a little more flexible in the future. I know he's still maintaining it quite well, so I'm going to definitely, hopefully have a chance to chat with him more detailed later on. Now, actually for the, when I get to that documentation feature, I actually ended up putting a button right here in this this bar. Now, I can't remember if I had an easy or a hard time with it. I need to look back at my code for that one. You just write, right? Yeah, I got it. So, I did write some custom UI modules for BS4 Dash. I definitely did. So I know where you're coming from. Hello, Ellen Hugh. Welcome to the stream. And definitely want to say congrats to you and Kun Ren and others on the VS Code with our extension. You got a new release that just hit, and I'm itching to try it out. So, yeah, okay. So yeah, I'll copy the function definition, delete the checks, and prevent me from doing all that. Yeah, there was an esoteric thing I had to do with the bookmarking feature on that alone that I'm sure we will. At some point I can talk more about, but it was rather painful. And if David actually saw what I had to do for that, he would probably smack me upside the head, maybe, because it was pretty wild what I had to do with that. So, okay. So, first step, getting that documentation button there. Now let's go back to our current issues and see what else I want to shore up. Now, I don't know if I actually did this yet, but yeah, okay. So when this app was made, it was using Ryan Timp's like custom R scripts that did the Lego mosaic stuff. And then it was about maybe a month or two after I released the app that Brick R became an actual package. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up here. Yep, Ryan Brick R, and now it does 3D stuff. So it didn't do 3D stuff, or actually it kind of did, but it definitely became a lot easier. But now, yeah, I'll put this in the chat as well. This isn't necessary for Wednesday because, let's face it, this is just about talking about the UI UX. This doesn't have to be on the back end all magic yet. So I'm probably going to defer this, but at some point I'm going to refactor the back end of Shiny Lego to use Brick R instead. And I remember I explored it way back, and I think I have a custom branch for it. I don't think I ever merged it to prod, so to speak. So we won't be doing Brick R for Wednesday. So that will be deferred. Fixed documentation, that's a very, okay, so that's more back end within the code itself, so I'm not going to worry about that for Wednesday. Profile memory usage. Well, we know the limitations, so, you know, that's just because of hosting. If you run the app locally, you never have those limitations other than the shiny option for maximum of file input upload, which I think is like 5 megabyte by default. I could be wrong. I'm not going to do 3D. Change increments of brightness. Oh, okay. So this seems like an easy thing. He recommended to make the slider in increments of 0.1 to have better precision. So yeah, let's throw that in. That's an easy one. All right, got that. Yep. Assigned to it already enhanced. Okay. The rest of these things we'll defer, so let's add a new issue. This is a stretch goal. Implement session management. It would demonstrate very important technique. Okay. I will put it in there, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So that means we should have our project board ready to go here, and then we just have to add our cards to it. So we don't need you. We don't need you. Okay, we got all three things in the to-do here. We've got within app docs, increment a brightness slider, and implement session management. Okay. Now, Space Pinball, do you mean the music right now, or do you mean my GitHub theme? You could go either way. I actually don't know what the song is. My alert goes away after a few seconds, and I forgot what was playing on there. Yeah, maybe. Well, you know what? We can actually see what the music is right now. I'll just make sure not to actually play it. Street Fighter 2010? Really? Oh, okay. That's surprising. That should be what's playing right now. Cool. All right. So I think we know what minor things I have to work on. So I guess the first step is getting the dev environment set up. So shiny Lego came at a time. Let's check here. Let me double check. Oh, I did do the dev container stuff. Okay, I did do that. Okay, let's see how badly out of date it is. I probably want to rebuild this because I've learned a lot since I did this stuff. Yeah, I've definitely changed a few things here. Yeah, the extensions for sure. So we're gonna update my clone of it, and then we're gonna probably refactor the files a little bit. So we're gonna go to the command line now. You know, it's something I want to do in the future is really bling up my terminal here. This is for something different. I wasn't sure if Shiny Source is going to win my my little mini debate of which app to do. Do I have Shiny Lego? Oh, you bet I do. Uh-oh, that's a new branch, isn't it? What did I do? Oh, okay, good news. So Not sure if this is too small to read, but whenever you do a git log and you see this, that the head is at this upgrades, origin upgrades, I believe that means I've merged it in, but we will find out. Otherwise, we got some merging to do if we didn't. Let's look at the git log here. Uh-oh. No. That was from 2020. Oh, the last day of the year. How ironic. Okay. What was I doing Shiny app development on New Year's Eve? That's out there. And this is January 15, 2021. So this has not been merged yet. Okay. Alright. So let's see if there's any. Oh, I was playing with Brick R, wasn't I? Okay, now I need to really see what so I added Brick R. I've done a vignette for it, but I don't think I've changed the app. So, okay. Now, the nice thing about this is that I can still merge this into the main branch, but I won't change the deployment. So I'll still have the deployment at ShinyApps.io still working as intended. But we'll push this up. I've already pushed it, so let's see if I go here. Now, why doesn't that show up here? Let me see here. Did I? Oh, I do have it here. Okay. Okay, let's open the pull request and let's see exactly what I did here. Okay, what did we actually change? We changed 6 files, added that prototyping thing, added Brick R to the description, RM block, got that. That's a whole bunch of changes there. The vignette, Brick R Explore. Okay. Now, of course, I'm a little nervous because I need to make sure the app still works. So, we should probably go to VS Code and try that out. Hopefully, it doesn't have to rebuild the container. We will see. Alright, back to VS Code we go. Open that folder. Shiny Dev Series projects. And then Shiny Lego. Container. And I think good. It still had the container. So sometimes with Docker, you never know if you wiped it out accidentally and have to rebuild the whole thing from scratch, but it's still here. Okay, so let's make sure this thing still works before I actually merge in that PR, otherwise that will be egg on my face. Get our terminal started. Yep. You can see this is old because I'm using R402 instead of the latest. So, hey, Isomar, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you. And we are going to try running this and seeing if it actually works. Okay, that's good. I think we're in business. Let's just make sure we can get an image created. Yep, got the mosaic in there. The instructions hopefully work. Yep, we got the table, the diagram, different steps. Yep, okay, so the app still works as before. That BrickR stuff was just exploring it in a vignette to see how I would refactor everything. So luckily I never actually made the switch yet. So we're good. We are good. So we are going to, well, you can see I got some deprecation messages because this is an old version. I was using code from an older version of dplyr, so it's warning me about that, but that's for another time. So okay, we've got the environment. What's nice is I can just keep this environment as is. I'm not gonna revamp everything on that. I just need to get this upgrade branch into the master branch of the GitHub repo. That way we're all starting from the same place. So I think we're good. We can merge this in. Okay. So now let's go to our lovely fish shell and let's pull that down. What was that? Oh. Forgot about that vignette, didn't I? Oh, rats. Okay, what was it? So it was modified. Okay, well let's see what the modifications actually were. Was it anything important? Because I'm probably gonna overhaul that thing anyway. What did I change? Oh, just an image path? Yeah, that's psh, no need. It was the path to the image. Yeah, who cares about that? We're gonna stash that thing. So if this ever happens to you when you're pulling down a change and you forgot you had like an uncommitted thing and you don't care about it, or you only care about it later, the command to take care of that is called git stash. It kind of does what it says. It takes those unstaged changes and it puts it in some kind of temp area in Git, and then you can unstash it later on, which is called git stash pop, if you want to bring it back after you do some merging and stuff like that. So now we're gonna go back to master. Now we're gonna pull that down. See, now we're good. Okay, so we got everything. All right. So, kind of want to think what to work on. Oh, I didn't put VS Code back on. Sorry, that always happens. So we got that back on. And then now I want to figure out just what thing I want to work on in the next like 20 minutes, because I definitely want to not stay up too late tonight. There's no way I can do session management in that amount of time. But really, it was actually that or the within app documentation. So maybe we start this, and I'll try to go by pseudo memory of what I did before on another project and make a module for that. So it's amazing when you work on something that's been like a while ago. I wish I was one of those people that could just like recall it from memory and like just have it ready to go. I am not one of those people, especially at this hour. So, oh, this is a good tip from Daniel. Pop will pop the last stash, last in first out, and apply keeps it in the stash list. Oh, I didn't know about apply. That's a cool one. Yeah. Well, that's a long day, Monica. I know there was an Ubuntu stream on Twitch, and I unfortunately could not attend because I had a bit of a plumbing crisis here at the house. Beta release day, yes, that's right. Congrats. My sump pump, which is not far from where I'm stationed here, decided to leak. Luckily, it wasn't a huge leak, but it was because something went haywire inside it. and we had to call for a plumber to come urgently, and finally we got somebody. And they said that the sump pump's basically going bad, and we need a new one. The battery thing wasn't working, and so it's going to be a hefty check, so to speak, tomorrow morning when they come to actually fix all this. But I was too scared to unplug it and do all that stuff because where I grew up, we had, I would say, 3 or 4 major basement floods because of just bad luck where our house was placed in terms of like the elevation and just some real shoddy plumbing that brought the icky stuff into our basement. And I am so jaded from that experience that anytime I see any hints of a water thing happening in the basement, I'm like, we gotta call a plumber. So luckily we did. So I feel relieved that it could have been a lot worse, but we're in good shape. So now there's a couple things I need to think about for this feature of the dynamic help. Is I need to see just what version of BS4 Dash we are actually using here. That may dictate what I can do with this. Oh, that 5. That looks older. Let's see just how old that one is. Let's look at our David's news file. Oh goodness, yes. This is old. These are at 2. Oh, okay. So this is an interesting kind of tangent here. David went from 0.5 all the way to I think version 2, because version 2 basically made it align with the syntax of functions for Shiny Dashboard and Shiny Dashboard Plus. You know what, Tan? That should have been me asking that because I interviewed him a while back. We actually talked about BS4 Dash. He may have mentioned it in that interview. I'm not sure. Been a while. Oh yeah, Jake. Yeah, is there a stream? I don't see the name of it. That's what I'm gonna work on. Is that there is a Twitch alert for this music service, but it doesn't persist. Okay, this is called Ada from Zone of the Enders, the second runner. It's a remix, of course. So I should have, you know what I should do? I should do a Twitch command for that because a lot of people do like what's playing and things like that. If I can figure out how to hook to the Rainwave API, then I can do that. Oh, Daniel, you're asking if I ordered Colin's new Shiny book. I think I'm gonna get it. In fact, I may be getting it as part of my. Well, let's do some inside baseball here, so to speak. So what Daniel's talking about is Colin Faze and the team at ThinkR have created one of my favorite books about Shiny, engineering production grade Shiny apps. Which, if I had had this when I first started Shiny, I would be so much farther ahead. But what's nice is this. I knew this book was coming. I think I shared this story maybe a few streams ago, but I was so happy about it that I literally asked to write the foreword for it because it resonated with me so much. The principles and the journey I've had with bringing Shiny into production and how it's like they read my mind on so many things. I was like, please let me write this for you. I just let me do it. And Colin's like, yeah, of course. So that's me in the forward here. So I believe on top of writing the forward, I was asked by David Grubbs, who's one of the leaders of the R series at CRC Press, to review their proposal and give feedback. And one of the nice things about helping out with CRC Press is that you give a book review or a book proposal review, you get some free books. And I told him, when this goes to print, please, please, please send this. And I believe he will. I'll remind him just in case. But this has been one I've been eagerly awaiting the print for, because it is awesome. Yeah, it was again one of those things where Colin didn't ask me. I literally was like, "Let me write this for you," and he let me do it. So now there is some good feedback. You're asking which one to read first, this or Mastering Shiny. I think, yeah, I do agree with what Tan is saying. If you actually haven't done too much with Shiny, other than the basics, I think the stuff that Hadley talks about in Mastering Shiny will really help you out to even better to have all the stuff in Engineering Shiny make a little more sense, so to speak, or get a more context around it of why the ThinkGuard team chose certain directions and why they recommend these patterns, especially about these application caveats about reactivity, the observe and observe event situation. We talk about that in great detail. There's a lot of like making sure R isn't doing too much from the rendering side. So all this advice will make a lot more sense after you've been at least through Mastering Shiny, and hopefully you've been through at least one application that you have built that goes beyond the cookie cutter stuff, and you have to share it like in a high profile situation perhaps with maybe a lot of users, and you have to build features into it. Then it'll really start to gel. So again, highly recommended, of course. Yeah, I have never written a book about R stuff. Thought has crossed my mind, I must say, but that little pesky thing called time kind of gets in the way. Okay, that's another good. The other similar question is: are there things in Mastering Shiny you've had to unlearn from production? You know, the thing that I did too much of, and Tan can probably understand where I'm going with this, is actually what I have here is in Shiny you can do what are called dynamic UIs based on server-side rendering, and that's through the render UI and UI output constructs. This is fine for a few small things, but if you have a lot of things you're going to render from the server side, you're making R do a lot of work that frankly could be handled more on the client side in certain situations. And so this was a behavior that I've been doing for a long time. But then when I read this chapter, and again, I still do render UIs for a few things, but there are some others where I was able to increase performance a bit by using the built-in update functions in Shiny. And again, this is not like a one-size-fits-all solution. So, Tan, I can see where you're coming from. But there were certain situations where I did a lot of these, and there was just that perceptible lag when it would try to refresh everything because the server is already doing a bunch of stuff already. And that was something that helped me out a little bit. Yeah, I was probably talking about something completely different than what Daniel was asking, so my apologies for that. But yeah, Tan, I agree. Mastering Shiny is going to give you what kind of that thinking, that philosophy on what is going behind an app, what's going on behind the scenes of reactivity, what's going on behind the scenes of these outputs that are generated. And then that helps you immensely when you start thinking about, okay, it's not just learning how Shiny works. Now I got to think about a boatload of issues to make it suitable for a production situation. And that's where some of the techniques that are being talked about here really come into play with engineering Shiny. And then of course I'll plug the other one that is going to be in print hopefully soon. It's Outstanding Shiny UI by who we've been whoops, that link is broken. There it is. Outstanding Shiny UI by David Grange, and of course the author of BS4 Dash that we just talked about. So this one is kind of like the situation where this really is tailored a lot to UI and UX. So I'm sure this is going to come up in the webinar on Wednesday. But this is a great book to know a little bit about what's happening with JavaScript behind the scenes and some cool tricks you can do to go beyond what Shiny gives you in terms of the inputs that it exposes to you and the interactions that it gives you out of the box. If you have to do something different, this book is your solution to level up on that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna declare it on here so y'all can hold me accountable to this. I want to start maybe in the next month or so taking a page out of Jesse's book, so to speak, and do learning streams on this one. This one, I can't point my finger the right way. Because I feel like I have taken almost all of my UI UX knowledge about as far as it can go without becoming more proficient in what's really happening with the UI stuff. If I can get even just half of what this book is going to teach me how to do, just half of it. There are certain situations at work where I'm working with, well, you know what? I don't mind talking about this because it's been a huge part of my, a little bit of pain, so to speak, is this little widget right here called Viz Network. You may have seen this before in other situations, but you get these like network diagrams. Let's see, do they have a deployed app on here that we can play with? Probably not. Let me see if they have. Yeah, well, basically the idea is that it gives you these interactive network visualizations. And you can drag the widgets, or drag the nodes around. You can annotate them with labels and edges. You can update them, things like that. But. I have had to do a lot of stuff under the hood to make it play with what my team expects my app to do that wraps this thing. Like letting the user dictate what the layout should be. Maybe one node should go on top, a certain set should go on the bottom, maybe these sets should be in the middle. We have to be opinionated on what that layout should be. And Viz Network does give you that capability in a sense, but it is far, far from perfect. The other bit is the updating of the network based on other events, so to speak. And they have their own take on interactive designing, so to speak, where you can like add a node, click somewhere, and it bumps it in. But it does this weird labeling thing, and it can't get, like, I can't override it. I tried to override it. It was a nightmare. And now I'm going to basically have to override part of it and do my own UI on top of it to do the editing the way I see fit. But that's where I have to get in the bowels of how JavaScript is in this widget. And I feel like every time I do that, I'm just like so confused. And it doesn't have to be that way. Let's face it, anybody on the Shiny team surely knows how JavaScript works within Shiny. I mean, come on, look at the cast they have on there. Joe Chang, the author of the darn thing, Winston, who maintains it now, Nick Strayer's a master of JavaScript, Barrett, I'm sure, does a whole bunch of it, and of course Plummer, Carson, who can forget Carson when he does with Plotly. It's crazy. I need to be better with that. Oh yeah, the JS for R. Yes. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Daniel. Looks like Stream Elements was not kind to you. Hopefully I can. Is there a way I can do that on the fly? How do I? If anybody knows how to do that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, permit. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for that, Daniel. I don't know if you were sending a link or whatnot. But what Tan was referring to is this one right here, which is another very important piece of this puzzle for general JavaScript here. Yeah, let me do that right now. IP. Okay, Daniel, you're now a VIP on the channel, so you should be able to send links and stuff. Yeah. Sorry for that. So John Kuhn, who has authored a lot of widgets in the Shiny or in the R community. I thought about should I do this one first, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for this one yet. I feel bad because I talked to John about this. And what episode did I talk to John about? Let's look that up because it's a great conversation. We had so much fun. Wow, John's episode was farther back than I thought. Yep, importance of user experience, episode 10. I'll put that in chat. By the way, for those that didn't see my past Shiny Dev Series interviews, this was before my OBS knowledge, like Jedi moments. So it's using Zoom for it, but the later interviews I'll use OBS and Video Ninja for it. So, all right. Am I famous? I doubt that. So yeah, that was a fun one. But yeah, back to this book. I definitely want to do it, but I think I'm not ready for that yet until I have to build my own widget. When I have to build my own widget, yeah, I'm going to this right away. This is a huge book for that. It's got your first widget, a realistic one, advanced topics, linking them with Shiny, custom input. So it's a nice complement to what David's done. But I think I need to warm up to that a little bit. So like I said, look for a learning stream of this one in the very near future. And of course, if you want to hear me actually talk to David about that, that was on episode 20 with the fancy OBS setup. But this is one where we had some Video Ninja connection issues, so there was a little bit of a lag there. But we still had a great conversation, and we talked a lot about the book and the mindset behind it. So that was on May. Wow, time is going fast, isn't it? We're already almost October now. Crazy. You know, this has been kind of fun. Obviously, I haven't done much coding today other than we narrowed down what app I'm going to do for Wednesday, and I feel like it's a nice warm-up even just for me to talk about some of these principles with Brian next week. So apparently I'm supposed to have like a little mini tech rehearsal tomorrow morning. Hopefully my setup will work for this. But yeah, lots of good principles on that one. So, oh yeah, the JavaScript for data science. I do have that. I remember when I had, well, since I'm in the plugging mood, where is that? It's here somewhere. Yeah, episode 15. I talked with Maya Gans. She is just really talented. I had so much fun talking with her, and she was a co-author of that JavaScript for data science book, I believe, and it's a good read. But that's going to be kind of more of a higher level, gentle introduction to it. But it does actually, I shouldn't say gentle. It does kind of go pretty quickly into the whole JavaScript realm. But that's okay. You know, that's okay. But yeah, Maya's awesome. I really enjoy her. So she and I actually work in the same industry. So go figure. Okay. So. Okay, now I'm thinking, what should I do in the next 6 minutes? Or just chat. We can just chat about stuff. Give you some inside baseball into what I'm planning to do with this project here. So, if you have sharp eyes, you probably can sense what template this website is. This is Hugo Academic. I think they rebranded their name a little bit. It's okay, but let's face it, it's not that fun. You know what I want to move to? This is what I want to move to. Hugo Apparel. This is you can make this look really fantastic. Yep, by Allison Hill, exactly. The nice thing is that you can do this projects page, or I could do like all the apps I made as part of like the Shiny Dev series stuff. Talks. This will be really great as a template for the Shiny Dev series episodes, where instead of like a picture, we could embed the video. Have a more detailed post, have the embed right here. So I'm thinking about that. Now you're right about that, Tan. The templates do scare me a little bit, but I did. I watched somebody. I don't know how I stumbled upon this. I think it was maybe after somebody else's stream ended. They were doing some Hugo editing, and they figured out a nicer embed of YouTube or other online videos into a Hugo Markdown site, and it'll look even better than what I do currently with the academic theme. So I do want to eventually do that. That's probably another streaming project. But the part I need to think about is, do I try to like gently convert it in the ways that Allison and others like Sylvia recommend, or do I take what Daniel was saying in the chat and just nuke and pave and start from scratch? Mine is kind of broken too. In fact, I'll show you why mine's kind of broken. Is for whatever reason I cannot get the guest thumbnail image to show up here, or the picture to do it. It just looks too narrow. I don't know why it's such a narrow layout. And yeah, it's boring. I gotta make it more engaging. Like, come on, yeah. So it'll be a long-term thing. Obviously, let's be honest, not many people go to this site. They go to the YouTube channel, which is just the way most people consume the content. So it's not a huge priority, but I just want to make it even better. So I think I fixed the blog, the Hugo version and the academic version in the deployment to Netlify, which is why I can avoid some of the shenanigans that can occur. But I do know what you're talking about, Daniel. These updates that they do, there are going to be a lot of breaking changes. And unless you really parse the news notes of these changes, even then they'll be too vague for you to really understand what the heck's going on. Oh, okay. Well, that's good motivation. Yeah, job searching. I definitely can understand that. That's kind of an interesting thing that I think about is I have the R podcast site. I have the Shiny Dev Series site. Other than my video and podcast stuff, I don't have anything that's like personal about me kind of thing. And I kind of wonder, should I have a personal site? One thing I was thinking about is going back to GitHub for a second. Colin does this on his GitHub. He uses the README feature in your general GitHub profile. And he has a nice set of links to what he's done. And I've seen some really sophisticated things on here. So I'm wondering if I should just do a GitHub README for it. As like the close to the personal thing. Yeah, I'm looking at. Oh, that's why you learned Distill of Jake B. Scott. Yeah, that's cool. Distill. There's an interesting thing I heard about Distill though, is that I thought there was some chatter about like the actual Distill upstream project, not the R package of it, but like the real upstream Distill. That there was some chatter about the maintainers saying that they're not going to build new features anymore for the foreseeable future, either because they were overworked or something. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. But if it's stable, then I guess it doesn't matter, right? I mean, people just use this still. We have great resources around it from what like Tom Mock has been doing, like you said, Tan. Oh yeah, Garrigated Buoys README. Let's look at that. Let me see what stylish things he. Oh man, that's slick. Okay, yeah, that's up my alley. Yeah, that's definitely cool. And by the way, if you like to hear about Garrick's take on a few things, that was ironically my last episode to date of the main podcast was episode 33. This is when I was at our Studio Conf, the last in-person one in 2020, and I was in the JavaScript for Shiny developers workshop that he and Maya and Colin had led. And I don't know, I was like, I was so glad I was there, but I feel kind of guilty in a sense that I pride myself on trying to be able to keep up with a lot of things during these workshops, whether about R or some other language or some statistics stuff. But I remember after like the first few hours, I got tripped up by one thing and it was just so hard to catch up. And it's not a fault of them or anything. It's just me feeling like this whole JavaScript world is so new. I couldn't like get myself back into it quickly. But what I'm talking about is, actually it should have been linked directly here. Let me see if I have the direct link here. Yeah, it's JS for Shiny. So this is a workshop. It has some slides and some practice materials. But this is a great compliment to what I'm about to do with that learning journey. And I'll show you a cool little Easter egg here, at least from my perspective. First of all, he always does a great job with the animated GIFs and all that. But this blew me away. I did not know this was coming. But this example that they did with audio JavaScript events with a drum kit and SVG came from a little question, or came from Maya's human body Shiny app. And this question that I had when I was independently working on almost the exact same thing that Maya was working on, but none of us knew about it. So I was trying to do some slick thing where I had an SVG image where the user could click on a region and it would bring up like the name of the region and some other meta information. And I remember I was having problems because this was in a module. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, I ended up hard coding the module name, like right here. And I put in a little reproducible example in the SVG code. And then Greg from our studio had a nice little solution about inlining with an ID embed. Yeah, so I won't go into too much detail here, but it was a very sophisticated solution, and it was spot on. But apparently, that got the attention of Garrick when they were making this this part of the app, or this of the course. In fact, we'll look at it here. I'm gonna wrap up here in a bit because we're just chatting now, but. This app has an SVG. I don't think you can hear it on the stream. But you click it and you'll hear like the actual drums play. So I'll put that in the chat here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it's just fun to play with. But behind the scenes, it's the JavaScript stuff is amazing. So I think is there a GitHub repo with it? There should be a GitHub repo with it somewhere. Yeah, maybe it's here. Yeah, so I think it's just that's just a lot of fun, but it's got some JavaScript stuff, so that's a great kind of learning piece. So yeah, so cool. It's been a lot of fun chat about where we go with learning, and this has been on my mind for a while, and certainly because of what Jessie's been doing on her streams the last few, was it been about a month and a half that she started this Shiny Learning with her new role. I was thinking, you know, that's a great idea. You learn with people, you take notes on it, and you are able to practice it. And I think sometimes just talking through it helps you ingest it a little more. I could be wrong, but it has for me in the past. But I do feel like that time is getting sooner than later. So yeah, I think we're going to probably wrap it up there. It's been some fun chatting with all of you about my learning journey, and thankfully I got what I needed tonight. I know which app to talk about on Wednesday. So the key part now is to make those enhancements sooner than later, so that it is ready to go in terms of what I want to articulate, and then try to I will definitely, in the more general sense, speak about some common themes that have been basically my Shiny Dev life the last 4 or 5 years. And so I won't spoil it. You'll have to tune in on Wednesday for that. So if you want more details on that event, let me get the event here for registration. That is right here. If you want to register for that, it's going to be a Crowdcast thing, which I think is some streaming software. So definitely check it out if you're free on next Wednesday to see me and other really smart people talk about Shiny. So okay, let's close up here. Thank you again for joining. I know this is pretty random tonight, but I figured, well, why not? I love doing random stuff too, and I'm sure I'll see all of you in various streams out there. Let's see. So, let's I believe we'll have tomorrow's Friday, so we got Afton on Friday night. Tan, you're up on Saturday and also earlier on Sunday. And then there's a few others on Sunday as well. Sunday's been one of our bigger R streamer days. Hopefully I can tune in for some of that, and I'll also hopefully be doing a little racing in the afternoon on Sunday as well. Maybe we'll see, Monica. If Martin's feeling better, we might get our last warm-up before the next real season begins, and I have to defend that trophy because they're going to have to pry it out of my racing hands to get it away from me. So anyway, y'all have a great night. We'll see you next time, and have fun in whatever adventures you're going to have on Friday. So good night, everybody.